Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Niall McLoughlin and I'm Principal of the Air Quality, Noise, Environmental Radiation International Climate Division. And I'm delighted to join you this morning to discuss air quality policy developments over the past 12 months. The EPA National Air Event is a very important one in the environmental schedule, not least because it gives us an opportunity to take stock of where we are on our journey to cleaning Ireland's air and to remind ourselves of the importance of air quality for the health and well-being of us all. It is essential for the health of our citizens to ensure that the air that we breathe is as clean as possible. High standards in air quality are also very important for our environment, biodiversity, and the sustainability of our ecosystems. Improving our air quality will also be supported by our ambitions to reduce the impact of climate change and is key to achieving a number of our sustainable development goals. And of course, we are all aware that each year 1,300 people die prematurely in Ireland due to solid fuel burning. Government is committed to addressing this critical public health and environmental challenge through enhanced regulation of all solid fuels. New emission standards are being introduced across a range of fuels to ensure that the most polluting will no longer be available for sale on the Irish market. Introducing these standards will improve the quality of the air that we breathe and the health of the public that we serve. And I look forward to discussing the range of measures we are preparing to introduce to definitively address this challenge today. I'll also be considering a range of other issues in my presentation, including the quality of the air that we breathe, progress in our programme for government commitments, air-related COP26 developments, the newly launched Climate Action Plan 2021, sectoral challenges, and how these will be addressed through drivers for change. The quality of the air that we breathe is generally good. However, I've already mentioned air pollution is still a contributory factor in approximately 1,300 premature deaths per year in Ireland, and there are localised areas of concern. In particular, there are three key issues that we need to deal with. Fine particulate matter, associated mainly with domestic burning of solid fuels, nitrogen oxides associated mainly with transport in more urbanised areas, and ammonia associated mainly with agriculture. While recent decades have seen significant improvements in air quality in Ireland, air pollution continues to cause damage to both our health and environment. There is a whole of government commitment to achieve this objective, but it can only be realised through our collective efforts. The changes that are required will have positive economic and societal co-benefits, including cleaner air, warmer homes, better health and lower carbon, moving towards a more sustainable economy for the longer term. The Department of Environment, Climate and Communications is taking several steps to meet these air quality challenges, and the priority being afforded to improving the quality of our air can be seen in the range of commitments given in this regard through the Programme for Government. As I said, events like today give us an opportunity to take stock of progress that has been made and to see where we need to do better. The scorecard for air quality PFG commitments demonstrates, I think, that we are making good progress across a number of key areas. I'll speak about the Clean Air Strategy in more detail later, but a draft strategy has been prepared, and now that the Climate Action Plan has been launched, we'll be preparing to go to public consultation on that draft in the coming weeks. An important breakthrough has been made with respect to our commitment to establish a regional approach to air quality enforcement, as we've recently reached agreement with the County and City Managers Association that a new enforcement structure is required and will be put in place. Funding to support that structure was secured in last month's budget for the first time, and we are working with the local government sector in developing a robust business case for a more effective enforcement model. This is intrinsically linked to the multi-agency enforcement approach, but in advance of the new structures, we'll be working with local authorities and other agencies in delivering a targeted multi-agency campaign in areas of the country where there are particular and pressing concerns during 2022. The National Ambient Air Quality Monitoring Programme operated by the agency has undergone significant investment and expansion, with the number of monitoring stations increasing from, I think, about 30 in 2017 to about 96 today. The final expansion of the network in 2022 will include another 15 stations, giving a 110 station network, serving to increase the evidential base required to inform the policy measures necessary to improve the quality of our air. While Ireland has traditionally focused on measurements from monitoring stations to assess air quality, there is a need to provide more local air quality information throughout the country. The intention is that the information generated through monitoring will be augmented by newly developed modelling and forecasting capability, which will provide an ongoing air quality forecast service to the public. The current smoky coal ban has been extended, and a new, more comprehensive solid fuel regulation for the state has been advanced through a public consultation process and the development of a new regulatory framework, which again I will discuss in further detail later in this presentation. I just wanted to take this opportunity to pivot from the local to the international for a moment, and how air quality is a feature of COP26, which I attended last week. For instance, the Minister for Health, Minister Donnelly, formally supported the COP26 health programme, which aims to build a climate resilient and sustainable health system, which considers human exposure to air pollution and the measures required to reduce exposure. The close synergies between carbon emissions and air pollution, and the fact that air pollution is the world's largest environmental health threat, are being reaffirmed at COP, as is the fact that the same sources of emissions that are responsible for climate change are also causing significant damage to public health and the environment. Reducing fossil fuel combustion in industry, transport, agriculture and heating will not only reduce CO2 emissions, but also directly reduce NOx, black carbon, PAHs and carbon monoxide, with a resultant positive impact on human and ecosystem health and productivity. And I was particularly pleased to attend a number of talks last week where Irish researchers were to the fore in presenting their findings and recommendations for a pathway forward. It is especially timely then that our own climate action plan was launched last week. This plan provides a detailed plan for taking decisive action to achieve a 51% reduction in overall greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 and setting us on a path to reach net zero emissions by no later than 2050, as set out in the Climate Action Act 2021. The plan lists the actions needed to deliver on our climate targets and sets indicative range of emission reductions for each sector of the economy, many of which are obviously very, very relevant to the clean air agenda. From a transport perspective, the plan will enable 500,000 daily sustainable travel journeys by 2030 through major public transport projects such as Bus Connects and Connecting Ireland. Expand rail services and cycling and walking infrastructure, increase the use of biofuels in transport, expand electrification of bus and rail fleets with 1,500 electric buses by 2030, increase the number of electric vehicles to circa about 1 million by 2030, and update the public transport and public fleet to low emission alternatives. In agriculture, it will serve to significantly reduce chemical nitrogen fertilizer use, improve annual breeding and feeding, increase organically farmed land by almost fivefold, manage emissions from our dairy herd and transform our model of beef production, review diversification opportunities for farmers, including energy production, agroforestry and woodland creation. For homes and buildings, the plan will drive demand with new national retrofit plan, blend low-cost loans with SCAI grants to make retrofit affordable, open more training centres for retrofits upskilling, introduce programs to decarbonise the heating and cooling sectors by 2050, phase out use of fossil fuels for space and water heating in all buildings, promote use of electric heat pump or other low carbon technology in new and existing residential and commercial buildings. And for electricity, increase renewable electricity, wind and solar up to 80% by 2030, reduce emissions from electricity by 62% to 81% from 2018 levels, and complete the phase out of coal and peat-fired electricity generation. This will all serve to make a demonstrable contribution to how we face the air quality challenges across these sectors, and work is underway to quantify its full impact. Alongside the implementation of the plan, a number of other initiatives will continue to be taken by the air quality team to complement and reinforce the measures being planned. These include continuing to work with the UTRAP working group in designing sustainable solutions to emissions from the transport sector, supported by sister research, and considering the Dublin Air Quality Management Plan and appropriate measures for urban areas at national and local level. And as we all know, agriculture is the dominant source sector for ammonia emissions in Ireland, contributing to some 99% of our total national emissions. Annual emissions of ammonia increased each year from 2014 to 2018. driven in large part by strategies to develop and grow the sector in Ireland without sufficiently increasing the levels of application of appropriate mitigation measures to counteract this growth. However, EPA projections do show Ireland coming into compliance with the 2020 NEC target for ammonia by 2022 and on track to reach the 2030 target. This is predicated on the adoption of the measures outlined in the Teagasc MAC and Acclimatise in full. The challenge in implementing these measures and targeted adoption levels should not be underestimated. For our part, we will continue to engage with the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine and its agencies to monitor progress on the adoption of measures and to identify any additional measures and supports required to assist the increased uptake of existing abatement measures to further reduce agricultural air pollution emissions. As I highlighted, we also face challenges in relation to concentrations of particular matter in smaller towns, which is prominently related to domestic solid fuel burning. Minister Ryan created 13 new low smoke zones from September of last year, which is helping address concentrations of PM and related health concerns in these towns. There has been a greater focus in recent months on matters pertaining to air quality, particularly in the context of COVID-19. In addition, the evidence base for air quality policy has been enhanced by the substantial expansion of the EPA's monitoring network, increased modelling capacity, as well as the recent publication of more detailed research on residential solid fuel. Regulating the sale and use of other solid fuels for domestic heating is challenging because of the greater number of sources and greater variation in the quality of the fuels. But we have committed to introduce the necessary measures over the term of this government to move towards the implementation of a full nationwide regulation in relation to solid fuels. We took a major step earlier this year with a public consultation on the development of new solid fuel regulations for Ireland and received more than 3,500 responses across all strands of the consultation with a wide variety of suggested regulatory approaches. Having considered the submissions made by the public, health experts, advocacy groups, academia and industry, a framework for legislation has been developed and drafting of the regulations is now well advanced. From 2022, the following new standards for solid fuels will apply in Ireland. Coal-based products and manufactured solid fuel or peat products will be required to have a smoke emission rate of less than 10 grams an hour, reducing to 5 grams by 2025. The sulfur content permitted for all fuels will be reduced from 2% to 1% over time. Wood sold in single units under 2 meter cube will be required to have a moisture content of 25% or less, moving to 20% within 4 years. And wet wood sold over these volumes will be required to come with instructions for the purchaser on how to dry this wood. In order to accommodate those who right to harvest sod peat, no ban on its burning will be introduced. However, a regulatory regime to reduce its harm in more urbanised areas is under examination. These regulations will be finalised in the coming months and will be in place for the 2022 heating season. They were announced by the Minister in early September, to allow those servicing the domestic solid fuel market to plan accordingly and to continue to invest in less polluting alternatives. As policymakers, we are acutely conscious that the success of this new regulatory framework is dependent on supporting structures. While the regulations continue to be refined, and during the TRIS process, the department will be working across stakeholders to ensure that the system is in the best possible position to effectively support implementation. We are in ongoing discussions with the NSAI with respect to the development of a new SWIFT standard. We are addressing the lack of a national testing facility to support enforcement of standards, examining options with the local authority sector in this regard. We're also reviewing our existing legislation informed by our enhanced evidence base to ensure that it is fit for purpose and provides the best possible legislative framework to continue to improve the quality of our air. And finally, we remain committed to supporting local authority air quality enforcement efforts through a suite of supports, including adopting a regional approach to enforcement. The most recent EPA Focus on Local Authority Environmental Enforcement report has again stated that a coordinated approach to enforcement in relation to air quality issues is required given the links between burning of solid fuels and health effects of air pollution. With respect to solid fuels being placed in the market, increased inspection inspections and enforcement at each level of the supply chain will be required to support the new regulatory regime. It is important that a market signal is sent at the earliest opportunity that those placing unauthorised fuels on the Irish market will be detected and prosecuted, and the Department is prepared to assist and resource local authorities in doing so. As I mentioned, we have secured funding through Budget 2022 to support an overhaul of the enforcement system and have commenced the process working with and through the CCMA structures and continue to engage with local authority enforcement practitioners on the ground to ensure that they are appropriately equipped for the task ahead. There are already very good use of multi-agency and regional approaches to enforcement being applied in other areas of environmental enforcement, and supporting national structures are in place, which we believe can be built upon and applied to air enforcement. Finally, it wouldn't be an EPA Air Event without reference to the long-awaited Clean Air Strategy. As I mentioned earlier, a draft strategy has been prepared for public consultation and is currently being refreshed to take account of the measures contained in the Climate Action Plan. While it was originally the intention to launch the strategy alongside the solid fuel public consultation, recognising the urgency of taking action to address the health impacts of domestic solid fuel burning, the Minister chose to progress the development of enhanced regulations in advance. The decision has allowed submissions received during the consultation process to inform and contribute to the final strategy document. And the strategy will give effect to clean air policies in a manner consistent with national, EU and international policy considerations, and will provide a strategic policy framework identifying and promoting the integrated measures required across government and reducing air pollution and promoting cleaner air, while also delivering on wider social and economic objectives. And as I said, we intend to go to public consultation on the document in the very near future. Thank you very much, and I'll be happy to take any questions at the end of the presentations.